Would you take a new job if you knew it came with higher amounts of stress? Government jobs are known for their work-life balance, but not every agency supports that balance. Every year, a survey is given to thousands of federal employees, and they have probably over a dozen categories. One of those categories is work-life balance, and they ask two questions. The first one is your workload reasonable? The next one is, does your supervisor support work-life balance? For this study, I'm looking at large and medium-sized federal agencies because the chances are that's who you're applying to. Number 5 was the National Credit Union Administration. This agency is not congressionally funded, so they get their funding from the actual credit unions. And with a job in this agency, you could probably see a little bit better benefits when you're talking about your retirement benefits, maybe the TSP 401k combo. But still, people are feeling overworked. This agency currently has a little bit over 1,100 federal employees. If you look on usajobs.gov, you notice there's 43 open jobs, and this agency, they don't use the GS pay grade. Instead, they use the CU, which can pay over $200,000 a year. I talked to a few people from this agency. The main takeaway here is there's a lot of traveling with some of these positions. So they have to go out to the credit unions at times, or they have to travel to different locations. So that's one of the reasons why the work-life balance isn't the best. Number 4 is the U.S. Agency for International Development. They currently have over 10,000 employees. And if you look on usajobs.gov, there are 38 job openings. From what I heard, this agency was one of the first to bring their workers back from home, teleworking, and into the office. A lot of the employees right now, they're working 3 days in the office and 2 days at home if they're lucky. One person in particular mentioned that one day they were working in the comfort of their living room, and then the very next day they found themselves in a basement because their old office was moved down into the basement. So now there's no windows. There's no plant life or anything, and they felt kind of suffocated in that type of environment, so it was a very stark contrast. Outside of that, this agency largely focuses on foreign aid. So people have mixed opinions about that. People have mixed opinions about the actual mission when it comes to providing aid to a lot of these different countries. That could be another thing in the mix. Number 3 is the National Labor Relations. They currently have over 1,300 employees. And if you look on usajobs.gov, there are only 2 openings. So the chances are you're not applying for a job in NRL, which could be a good thing because the agency is rated at 59.7 out of 100 in the last annual survey. Almost every single component was ranked low, from leadership to teamwork to pay. Here's another interesting thing about this agency. The number of employees that work there, it's at an all-time low. It has almost been reduced by 50% in the last 20 years, which is a shame because one of the main purposes of this agency is to provide protection to private sector employees so that they can form a union. Number 2 is the Department of State. They currently have over 70,000 employees, and if you look on usajobs.gov, there are 73 job openings. This is the agency you want to work in if you want to travel the world. You want to go to Italy, Germany, maybe Japan, Spain. The chances are, if you work for the Department of State, there will be opportunities overseas for you. Matter of fact, I was at a dinner not too long ago, and I met an ambassador of Latvia, which is an Eastern European country. And this person, he originally got into the Department of State. I think he was GS-12 or GS-13, but he worked his way up, and he was eventually appointed as an ambassador for a country, which is not uncommon. A lot of times when they're picking ambassadors, it's coming from within the Department of State. And these type of positions could be equivalent to like an SES type position. So if you have the ambition to pursue something like that, the opportunities will be there. But also keep in mind, if you're working for the Department of State, the chances are you're probably going to need a top secret clearance, or you're going to need to be willing to go through the paperwork in order to get that level of clearance. There are a lot of bureaus and offices that fall underneath the Department of State, and it could be just 2 or 3 of these holding the entire agency down when it comes to the ratings. But if I were to wager why, if I were to guess, I would say it's because of the embassies. You know, when you're working for an embassy, there's different rules. You're away from friends and family. It can be stressing. That could be a major reason why a lot of people are not happy with the work-life balance in the Department of State. The number one on this list is the Social Security Administration. I know a lot of people, they saw this one coming a mile away. The SSA has been in the news a lot recently. If you look at government job news, you see there's always a headline probably every week, every couple of weeks. They're underfunded. The backlog's creeping up. The SSA currently has about 60,000 employees, and if you look on usajobs.gov, there are 14 job openings. This agency is probably going to be hiring a lot more in 2024. They really have to get a handle on that backlog that they're struggling with. There's some main complaints people have working in this agency. Number one is outdated systems. A lot of the systems is built on outdated software. There's only so much you can do to update it. Number two is the interface with the public. Believe it or not, the public, they're not always kind and nice, especially when they have an issue, especially when they view you as incompetent. They're not going to be nice. They're going to be angry. Think about the people you're going to be interacting with, the claims that they have. Maybe they're getting incorrect Social Security payments. Their Social Security payments are not accurate. Or maybe their Social Security hasn't hit yet. They're not getting the check. There's thousands of reasons why they're upset. But now they're coming to you and they're venting and they're expressing their frustration towards you because you are the face of the agency. So that's another thing. Number three is the workload. It's crazy high. The backlog's out of control. People are working a lot of hours. There could be overtime associated with this. In some cases, maybe there's not overtime, right? So that gets stressing after a while. On the bright side, you might be able to get an SSA with a little bit less competition. So for the right person, you know, looking into it, they could say, all right, I'll get a job in the SSA. I'll do my probation. I'll knock out the 12 months. And then I'm pivoting and I'm jumping to another agency using their competitive service status. That could be a strategy. As always, take these ratings with a grain of salt. These experiences, they might not represent your experience when you get into that agency. Every office, every sub-agency, it's going to have its own unique culture. And your time in the government, your time in your government job is going to depend upon your supervisor. What type of personality does your supervisor have? Do you get along with them? Is there a personality conflict there? Usually when you go on interviews, you want to ask, hey, who am I reporting to? Are you the supervisor for this position? So you can kind of get a feel of that individual before you just accept the job. So it comes down to your immediate supervisor. Some cases it can come down to your supervisor's supervisor. You want to know how the leadership is like in that organization. Now, if you still want to work a federal government job, I answered over a dozen questions in a live stream recently about usajobs.gov, about federal government jobs, about the hiring process. A lot of these questions, they could be on your mind. If you're interested in that, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.